Hey Mel, I'm a 53-year-old woman, a creative leader with, to the outside world at least, a so called great career, I guess you'd say, but with crippling anxiety and exhausting overthinking. Traveling, accompanied by panic attacks. Oh, what the heck. I've had this issue for 30 years, and all the guided meditations and mindfulness training pods in the world aren't helping. So, what steps can I take to stop this, to heal and find a new peace before I chuck in the towel and just barricade myself in at home? Thanks for everything. Bye.
Welcome back. I'm Mel Robbins, and that was a listener of the Mel Robbins podcast named Carrie. Today, we are talking anxiety toolkit. How do you heal from it? We're here with the world renowned Dr. Russell Kennedy, and we've been talking about how all anxiety begins in childhood, which is why if you're ever going to heal it, you're going to have to go back to those moments in your past and in your childhood that were painful when you felt unsafe or separate. And I promised that we would take Carrie's question and now dive into tools. What are specific tools that we can use, Dr. Kennedy, to truly start to heal this? Do you print out a photo of yourself when you were little and you make that your screensaver, which it feels like we should? How do you start? Oh my gosh.
That's
Oh,
me at 3.
Rusty.
Yep, that's Rusty.
So, for those of you who are listening to this and not watching this podcast on YouTube, Dr. Kennedy just held up the homepage of his phone, and there was a photo of him that's 3 years old. It just made my heart go,
Yeah, he's pretty cute.
oh. So,
He's
what does it
pretty cute.
do if you do that for yourself?
Well, that's the start, right? Because there's so much resistance to going back to visiting. That's the big thing, because the child in us needs this love and support so much that it creates all this alarm to get our attention. And yet, as adults, we push the alarm away. So it's
Mm,
kind of like, and I think I might have mentioned this in the last, podcast that we did, is that if a child came up to you with their hands up in a grocery store like they'd lost their parents, of course you would soothe them. But we have this alarm that goes off in our system, which is essentially the younger version of us going, hey, pick me up. Pick me up. I need some attention. I need some love. And instead, we go to the
mm,
internet and zombie scroll Instagram or go into our addictions or whatever, and we push that child away. So the child just gets louder. The alarm just gets louder and louder and louder. But there is a resistance to going back. So the adult doesn't want to go back and visit the child because the child holds all their pain. And the child has a real mistrust of us as adults because we've been ignoring their alarm for 30 years. So it's really important that we start slowly and you make that connection. So when you say get a picture, that can be really triggering for people. So sometimes I just say, in your mind's eye, picture yourself at any age as a child that you want. Picture what you're wearing. Picture yourself maybe at a happy time in your life. Like for you, it was like skiing or something like that. Picture yourself in this happy place. And that way you start making that connection,
mm.
because, just to go in and it's you're going to blow your brains out if you go back in and you go right to the child, go right to the trauma. So go to a place that you felt good. And I use this a lot when I work with people, is what was the best time in your life? Like what was the best time in your life, Mel?
I just immediately had this image of being on the front yard of our house in Michigan. And there were all kinds of kids around. And it was a beautiful summer night. And it was kind of that time of night where it's not quite dark,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not quite daytime. It's that beautiful, it's my favorite time of night, dusk, when the twinkly stars first start to come out, and it's kind of confusing because the sun's up, but you see the moon, and
Mm-hmm.
you know that the sun's about to set. And we are playing games. Like we're playing base and statue and all kinds of just tag and like just that moment right there with my brother and a bunch of other kids in the neighborhood running around being kids in the front yard of our house in Michigan where I grew up.
Okay, so close your eyes and really get into that image. Like, see your brother, see your house. Relax your shoulders, relax your jaw. Nice breath in and out. Just really see if you can drink in the emotion of that. And where you feel it in your body. Where do you feel that in your body?
Oh, I kind of feel it from my cheeks all the way to my heart. It's like this sort of like definitely like right, like for sure the heart.
Hmm. So this, this is something I would add to high-fiving yourself in the mirror is go back to the best time in your life. When you're high-fiving yourself in the mirror, because then we're getting your insulin involved, we're getting your brain involved in this whole feeling state, because the feeling state is what changes us. We can change our thoughts at a dime, but the feeling state is what changes our nervous system.
Mm.
So when you do the high five habit, when you're high-fiving yourself in the mirror, recall the best time in your life and just try and see if you can really get a felt sense of that. Now, what I will do with people who have suffered trauma is I will take them, once I have them grounded and once they trust me and stuff, I will take them into their trauma and then I will take them into the best time in their life. So with you, I might do, and we're shortening this considerably for the podcast, but for you, I might say, okay, if you feel safe enough that we talk about that kid, waking up with that kid on top of you
Mm-hmm.
and getting into that feeling. Now, where do you feel that in your body? And is this
Oh,
okay,
like
Mel, to go
right
into
in the
this?
gut.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
I like right in the
Okay.
gut. Like I immediately was like went from like the heart being full to like "Ugh," like right in the gut. And the
Okay.
ankles, weird, the ankles.
So what I would do is I would go back and go, okay, now go back to that feeling of dusk. You can see your house, you're playing statue.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. You feel calm, peaceful, happy. Now let's go into your gut. Let's go into that sensation again of, waking up with that kid on top of you. If it's okay to stay there for a second. And then lovingly go back up into that place in your chest and your throat where you felt really peaceful and happy playing with your brother.
It's amazing because I feel the gut like pulling me down.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, it's easy to drop into the gut
Yep.
and the bad experience. It's hard to pull yourself from that back up into this experience that I can feel that's positive. Is that normal?
That's absolutely normal. We're wired that way, Mel. We're wired to pay more attention to fearful situations than pleasurable ones because in our evolution, that's basically what kept us alive. So in healing this, we have to heal this at a feeling level. We can talk about that kid on top of you for the rest of your life without really changing it too much. You might get a better understanding of it cognitively, but to really change that sensation, we have to use another sensation because that's the language of trauma is sensation. It's the body.
Mm.
So we use that good feeling that you have, and then we go back and forth. We oscillate between back and forth. And it starts weakening that power, that negative feeling in your body that you associate with being a victim, with being helpless.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing about, when I love when you say you're talking about play, because the way this comes into play is trauma activates both the sympathetic, the fight or flight, and the parasympathetic, the rest and digest at the same time. Because we're
Oh,
so
I didn't know
confused,
that.
we don't know. Yeah, because once you get up to a certain point in sympathetic activity, your body can't handle it anymore. So it shuts down. So we go into parasympathetic. We don't go into pleasant parasympathetic, but we go into shutdown parasympathetic.
Hmm.
And then it goes back and forth and back and forth. And a lot of us with anxiety, that's what happens during the day. We go into this place where our body just gets exhausted. So we feel okay. We don't feel that tremendous, anxiety anymore. And then once we get rested in the parasympathetic, then the sympathetic comes back online and we go right back into anxiety again. So the thing about play, and play is so important for healing, is it's another thing that activates both the parasympathetic and the sympathetic activity at the same time. So trauma activates co-activation, they call it. So trauma activates parasympathetic and sympathetic simultaneously. So does play. But play allows you to start metabolizing. So when you're in co-activation, when your parasympathetic and your sympathetic is active at the same time, it's like having your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. When you're in play, you start realizing, hey, you know what? This sensation is actually okay. It doesn't have to fire me right into the
Mm.
trauma. So that's why one of the reasons why play is so important in healing trauma is because we get that felt sense of activation of both the parasympathetic and the sympathetic at the same time in a safe place, because play is safe and it's
Wow.
fun.
Okay, so going back to Carrie, and number one, it was very clear to you as an expert and a medical doctor and a neuroscientist that she's dealing with stored trauma. And step one is kind of recognizing that. And then the next thing she needs to do is to recognize that thinking keeps you in the coping, and that this is really going to be about dropping into your body and learning how to reconnect and heal in your body. And one of the things that you have recommended is that we think about this as younger self work, and that you can go back to positive times and feel that good sensation, that if you're ready for it, printing out a photo of yourself or putting it on your phone so that you are reconnecting with that version of you where you started to feel separate or unsafe or scared. And that is a way to start this process. Is there anything else that you would recommend that Carrie think about?
Yeah, you have to do it slowly. You have to start, because the thing is, when we go into our alarm, we don't want to go in there. Like, it feels painful to go in there. So it's do it slowly. And this is, if you have a real significant trauma, emotional, physical, sexual abuse, you probably need a therapist, and maybe a somatic therapist, to kind of help you get into this place, because it's not for amateurs in a way. If you have big trauma, if you have trauma that's manageable, absolutely you can work it on your own. But if you have big T trauma, doing this on your own can re-traumatize. So you need someone else there. You need someone there who you wish was there at the time of the trauma. And that person is you. That person is you. It's like, you can go back. We can use our amygdala. We can use that sense that we are not locked in time. We can go back and find that, like what I have on my phone. I can look in his eyes. I can imagine his eyes too. And there's a great song by Peter Gabriel that I listen. We're getting into Dr. Kennedy's world a little bit. Every morning I do this meditation that I make for myself. And then on top of that, I end it all by listening to Peter Gabriel's song In Your Eyes. So he has two versions. One's a recorded, which is about 5 minutes, and one's a live version. And he talks about in your eyes, and it's about in your eyes as a child. The light, the peace, I am complete. I see the vision of 1,000 doors. I see my divinity. I see my connection with myself. And I look at that little picture of me that's here on my phone while I listen to that song. And the lyrics of that song are so powerful. If you imagine, all my instincts, they return. Like, all your instincts return when you connect with that version of yourself that was hurt and in pain. That's what happens. And that's how you heal from anxiety and alarm. We can cope all we want, but if you want to heal, you have to find that child in you, and you have to show them that they're seen, heard, loved, and protected. And one of the ways that I do that every day is I start my day with that song, looking at him. And I use different pictures of me, but that's the main one because it's on my phone and it's right there already.
Okay, so you're in a situation and you're overthinking and your mind is spiraling and you're in that worst case scenario loop. Tools to get that moment under control.
Go into your body. Get out of your head. You're not going to find the solution in your head. It's not there. Stop looking for peanut butter at the hardware store. You're not going to find it there. You're not going to find the solution in your head. But now, whatever you focus on, you get more of. So if you start focusing on your thoughts, of course, you're just going to get more thoughts. And that's just going to be an endless self-fulfilling cycle. So consciously, you have to realize, what happens to me when I feel anxious? Where do I feel this anxiety? And can I train myself to go, oh, there's that pain in my chest again. There's that pressure in my solar plexus. There's that lump in my throat. That's a sign that I'm starting to go into alarm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my body. And this is one of the other times where I get people to draw on the best times of their life. Change that feeling state.
Can I
Go
ask you a
back.
question real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I want to go right to the moment
Okay.
that the thoughts are spiraling
Mm-hmm.
and you realize you're trapped in this worst case loop. Should somebody do the psychological sigh to
Physiological side, exactly. Yes.
just do that to
To
stop?
start, yeah,
Okay.
you gotta break the cycle, right? So
Or
that's a great way of breaking the cycle.
use the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to just
Absolutely.
stop
That's
the
another one.
cycle.
Yeah.
Is there another one to stop that spinning of thoughts?
Breathing is probably the most effective,
Okay.
just being aware, first of all, because a lot of times what will happen is because our frontal cortex gets impeded by survival physiology, we don't realize that we're in anxiety. We can sit in anxiety for hours and not realize that we're in it. So if you don't realize you're in it, you just feel it. You just feel this terrible feeling. You can't change it. So you develop this awareness. Okay, this is my alarm coming up. That's your first thing. So at that point, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of the house, put my shoes on, go to the house, go to the gym, go somewhere, do something. Like do something to break that cycle. Because if you don't break that cycle, you're going to sit there and ruminate and ruminate and ruminate. And rumination has tremendous inertia to it. Like once you start getting into negative thoughts, you don't feel like doing anything. It's like when Warren passed away and you didn't want to go anywhere. You didn't want to do anything. Physiologically, we go into the vagus nerve shutdown and that shuts us down. And we don't want it. So we need something outside of ourselves. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is awesome, by the way, because it's like, okay, after you've done it a bunch of times, okay, you have to change your state. And one of the best ways of changing your state is changing your body. And one of the best ways of changing your body is starting to frickin' move.
Yes.
So, I can sit there and I remember being in med school with the covers up to my chin, like I can't get into school today. And I always did, but it was like you just wake up and you're in this panic, like I can't get in there today. And I didn't have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 back then, but it was just like, okay, I have to move. Like I have to move. And giving myself a reward to move. Like, okay, I'm going to get a nice cool glass of water. Now, it wasn't that appealing, but it was just something. It was something to break that cycle. Because if you don't break that cycle of rumination, it will just run roughshod over you.
What is it like to live without anxiety? Because I think and the reason why I ask this question is I think so many of us have lived in a alarm state for so long, we don't know what it's like
Mm-hmm.
to be able to turn it off. So what is
Yeah.
available to everybody if
Well,
they start to do the work in their bodies?
a direct access to a repeatable process where you can find peace. Maybe not right away. Maybe it takes you 5 minutes. Maybe it takes you 10 minutes, but at least you're on the right track. At least you're not, I used to feel like I was, a bubble in an ocean because whatever the ocean went, wherever my emotion went,
Mm,
I was taken with it. And the thing about starting to find that peace in your body is you kind of go down below the surface of the waves and you kind of look up. This is the image that I get anyway. I look up and I can kind of see, kind of that hazy blue when you're under the water and you're
mm-hmm,
looking up. I
mm-hmm.
can see the waves there. And you can create this sense of separateness, ironically, from the alarm, where this isn't all of me. Because when you were a child, it was all of you. Like when you were in your trauma as a child, there was no way out. You'd look everywhere and there was no way out. But as an adult, you can look and you can start seeing, you know what? I feel you, alarm. Like I feel you there. And I know that you are my younger self. But I can see that there is a sense of separateness there that I don't have to completely be taken over by this. Now, at the same time, the paradox is that alarm is your younger self. So you want to be attached to it. So can you see the alarm with this sense of curiosity? Because when you look at something with curiosity, you take a lot of the emotion out of it. It's like, that's really interesting that I've got this sense of alarm in my solar plexus, that it feels heavy and sharp and purple. Wow, that's really interesting. Because when you look at it with curiosity, you're changing your sort of psychological mindset towards it. And when you start changing it in any way, it starts making that cycle easier to break. So when you get caught in rumination and thought, You can start going into your body, even if it hurts initially, because you are on the right track, and your ventral tegmental area, the part of your brain that secretes dopamine, will start telling you you're on the right track. And I think that's when we start healing, we start get this sense of power over the alarm, because we have been prisoners of it for so long. And in a way, we are prisoners of our younger child. If we don't pay attention to them, they will make us miserable together. So when you start paying attention to that and you start knowing, hey, I'm on the right track, like dopamine starts going in your brain. When you're on the right track with something, you get all these sort of feel good chemicals. And then you have a sense that you are no longer this passive, bubble in the ocean anymore. Like you have something that you can tap into that's in all of us. I mean, this power, and we see this a lot with people that have had spontaneous remissions from cancers and from horrible diseases and stuff. They feel this power in them that they didn't know was there, but they just feel it. They just feel that power. And I think what happens when we have trauma as children is we lose faith in that power. We lose sight of that power. So when you connect with your younger self again, you can have access to that power that's in all of us, that sense of peace. I think in the Bible, like they call it the peace that passeth all understanding. And you get into that state. And when you start healing from anxiety and you start realizing, hey, it is actually safe to feel safe. There's a tremendous feeling of rush of, man, I suffered from this for so long. Why did I wait so long to do this?
Well, I know for me personally, it happened a lot faster than I expected it to. And the experience for me is emotional peace. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a level of steadiness, there's a calmness, uh, confidence, like it's all available to you. And I think when people really resonate, particularly with either the way that I move through life in the last year or two, or how our son Oakley has this just steadiness, this presence, that's emotional peace that you're experiencing. And everything that you talked about related to the fact that so much of this is about the separateness or the unsafe feeling that we all experienced at some point during childhood, and how the alarm sounds now that we are adults. But there's this emotional immaturity in most adults, meaning they're just children trapped in adult bodies who are incapable of handling the feelings and the sensations that are rising up in their bodies, which is why they act in ways that feel very toxic or abusive or confusing. And it's why we do that and then regret it. And the whole solution to all of this is this 3-layered approach we've been talking about today. Is first, you got to become aware
Yeah.
that you have this alarm, that it's getting triggered in your adult life, and that there's shit that went down when you were a kid that needs your attention and needs your healing. And it has everything to do with you learning how to make yourself feel connected and safe and taken care of. And then there is the coping with it, which are the bazillion strategies on TikTok, which, by the way, a lot of it is horseshit. And so you got to be very careful. Yeah, it may go viral, but in the coping realm, therapy is amazing if you can afford it. And all the modalities are incredible and help you to cope, and breathing and meditation and yoga and walks in the woods and lots of things that both Dr. Kennedy and I recommend. And it will help you cope, and it will help the anxiety dissipate. But if you really want to dismantle the alarm, you got to go a layer deeper, which is in your body, finding the source of the alarm, repairing yourself and that little person inside of you that felt alarmed, and then taking care of yourself by staying in your body and becoming aware of when the alarm goes off before it hits your mind, and feeling your way through these things. It's remarkably powerful what you're talking about, Dr. Kennedy.
And I think that that's really, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's superficial things we can do, physiological sigh, breath work, grounding, just feeling your butt in the chair, feeling your feet on the ground. Like, there is something psychologically about being grounded. It does help us for sure. Touch, touching yourself, touching other people, um, you know, temperature, feeling, going through those extremes of temperature, cold, heat, whatever. Temperature is one of those ways that we can access the deeper structures in our brain too. Smell, if you have an essential oil that you love, like lavender or chamomile, rather, carry it with you if you're struggling. Smell is one of those things that it's the only sense that doesn't get processed by the thalamus. The thalamus is kind of like this central switchboard of the brain. Smell goes right into our emotional brain. So if you have something that smells good, it will change your state right away. There is this thing also about moving your eyes back and forth, side to side, sort of the basis of EMDR. And it does show that if you move your eyes back and forth, not up and down, but back and forth, it does decrease the activity in the amygdala. Now, all those things are coping strategies. To heal, you've got to find the alarm, you've got to find the trauma, you've got to find your younger self. You have to have faith in yourself. Because I think as trauma, when we get traumatized as children, we lose faith in the world. And when we lose faith in the world, we start believing everything is up to me. And if you're a 7-year-old and you think everything's up to you, life's going to be very anxious. You're not. And finding that power inside of you, that power that the people that had the spontaneous remissions from cancers and multiple sclerosis and all those sort of things, there's this power inside all of us that we lose with trauma. Finding that again, it's really important. Having gratitude for the pain, having gratitude for the alarm, because that's your conduit to your healing, is that alarm. So as much as you bemoan having it, it's actually a beacon to your younger self. Be grateful for that sense of alarm, because you have a pathway now to find that child. And play. It's so important to adopt play, because when you play, you start changing that autonomic nervous system, and that autonomic nervous system runs your life. So the more you can play, the more you can regulate that autonomic nervous system, that sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system, the easier life is going to be, the more connected you're going to be to yourself, and maybe more importantly to others, because we need others, because loneliness is killing us. Separation is killing us.
Give me your top 3 recommendations for play that you give to your patients.
Well, I often ask people, like, what did you do when you were a teenager? Some people say, I rode my bike, I played chess, I did this. So things that you liked when you were a kid, chances are you'll still like now. So that's kind of, there's no sort of global thing that I suggest to people. Ideally, it would be something that's fun, that doesn't really have a winner and a loser kind of thing. That, and Gordon Neufeld, who's my sort of mentor in developmental psychology, talks about that with kids. It's so important to have play just for play's sake. There is no winner, there is no loser, there's nothing there. And one of the things that I really recommend for parents is playing around the dinner table with facial expressions, like, how am I feeling when I make this face? How am I feeling? Because then you're actually maturing their social engagement system. You're maturing the part of their brain, facial expression, body language, eye contact. You're improving the part of their brain that allows them to soothe others and soothe themselves. So it's important to do this in a playful way, and that's really, once we start really adopting play in our day-to-day life, then we start regulating our nervous system, and in a way that you don't have to academically go back and find the trauma.
Amazing. Dr. Kennedy, anything else before I wrap up?
I think it's really being, compassionate for yourself. I have this process in the book called ABC. So A is awareness, as you say, being aware what anxiety or alarm feels like in your body. B is for body and breath. So go into your body, go into your breath. Physiological sigh is great. Getting grounded in your body. And then C is compassionate connection for yourself, and specifically that younger version of yourself. So if you do that each time that you have anxiety or alarm, you will start training your nervous system to focus on something that will heal you, instead of focusing on your thoughts, which are only going to make you worse.
Amazing.
So as Forrest Gump would say, that's all I got to say about that.
Welcome back. It's your friend Mel, and you and I are sitting here, and I was just confessing to you that I did a whole worry spiral this morning, and I'm teaching you one of my favorite tools, the 6-sentence word, what if it all works out? we need to know that it is painful to stand there and be terrified that you're going to not be able to say goodbye to somebody that you love because you're scared of flying and now you're sitting in an airplane seat. And when you say to yourself, what if it all works out? You know what it's like? It's like, okay, life just fired an arrow at you. And I want you to stop and think right now, okay? What is an arrow that life fired at you? And think about something going on in your life right now. And in order to get you thinking about this, I'm going to bring in our global audience because I knew I wanted to talk about this. So we put up something on Instagram real quick, and you guys respond like, oh my gosh, moths to a flame. It's incredible. I love you. And I asked, what would your life be like if you didn't worry about anything? And what are you worrying about right now? And so let me tell you some of the arrows that life is throwing at people. I'm scared of flying. This is Sylvia. And I always worry because I feel out of control that I'm going to die on the plane flight. And here's the second arrow. You ready? That she's firing. What if I can't say goodbye? What if this is it? That's the second arrow. It's fine to be afraid of flying, but why are you torturing yourself with all these horrible thoughts? Instead, I want you to reach up and grab that second arrow that you're aiming at yourself with your worries in midair. I want you to yank it out of the air by going, what if it all works out? What if this plane lands? What if I not only get to see all these people that I love and say goodbye, but I'm the last one standing in my family. I outlive them all. What if it all works out? Here's another one. Maggie, annual reviews are coming up. Mm-hmm. Boom, that's an arrow in the heart. That's the first arrow. It is nerve-wracking. That's true. But why does Maggie need to go, what if I get fired? What if I'm the one that gets laid off? What's going to happen to my kids? How am I going to pay for groceries? That is the second arrow. That's why you need, what if it all works out? You reach up, you grab it, you grab it, you grab it, you grab it. Here's another one. Here's a really, really important one from Gabby. I'm going through a divorce. Boom, arrow straight to the heart. Even when you know it's the best thing, it's still painful, isn't it? That's what happens in your life. But the second arrow, what if I never, ever have the life that I actually want? You got to stop that shit from hitting your head. You got to stop firing that stuff right at yourself. That's why you got to reach up with these 6 words. What if it all works out? What if it all works out? What if getting divorced is painful, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me? What if this divorce is really challenging right now, but I'm going to emerge stronger and a better version of myself, and my kids are going to be better, and that's going to open the door to me being in a healthier, more supportive relationship? What if this is the best thing that ever happened to me, even though it's the hardest thing that ever happened to me? Isn't that awesome? This is how you stop firing that second arrow at yourself. Here's another one. There are natural disasters in the news all the time in the area that I live in. That's an arrow every time you see a natural disaster. But why do you have to fire the second one at yourself? What if the mudslide takes out my house? What if the volcano erupts here? What if the floods come and they wipe out that thing? It hasn't happened yet. So why on earth are you causing yourself this pain? I'll tell you why. Because we're used to doing it. This is what we do reflexively. Life fires an arrow and then we fire the second one. And so this is why what if it all works out isn't just putting lipstick on a pig or icing a shitty situation over with some like positive gloss. This is actually using science to combat your shitty habits of torturing yourself. This is you intervening with logic, because if something bad hasn't happened, how does worrying about it help you right now? If you don't know what's actually going to happen, how does worrying about it or assuming the worst case going to make things better? It's not. In fact, you experience the pain twice because you experience the anticipation of it. And let's just say you are going to get fired. And look, I've been fired twice. I have been literally brought into somebody's office and told I'm doing a terrible job and let go. It is the worst. And then the second you leave, once you get over the humiliation of the whole thing, it's the most liberating thing that ever happens to you, because you typically only get fired from a job that you can't stand anyway, or that you know that you're not performing in, which is the case. But I knew it was coming. I just could feel it. I tortured myself for a month. I didn't need to do that because it didn't change the outcome. If anything, it made me experience it over and over and over. And I'll tell you, anticipating it, way worse than what actually happened. If I had just said to myself for those 30 days, what if it all works out, Mel? What if you do get fired and it's the best thing that ever happened? What if you're not going to get fired, but this is a wake-up call for you to step it up and actually start performing a little bit better? It allows you to stop experiencing so much pain. Actually, yesterday, I did this before I flew to Salt Lake because I was racing around the house. I couldn't find my freaking computer charger. I couldn't find my passport. I couldn't find the bag that I normally put my travel equipment in. And I was racing around. I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, I only have 15 minutes before I got to go. What if I don't find it? And I was like, Mel, stop. What if it all works out? What if you suddenly find the charger? Or better yet, you're an adult. You can get to an airport and buy a charger. So instead of literally firing arrows at yourself, you could stop firing it and focus. And that's why this is super, super important. I'm going to talk about the other reason why it's critical that you not escalate situations with this unnecessary worrying, okay? Here, let me give you some other ones from our audience. Oh, Natalie. Anytime I see somebody else happy, boom, arrow to the heart. That's what's happening around you. Then she fires a second one. What if I'm never going to find my person? Does worrying about that help you find your person? No. It actually makes you feel more insecure. And this is where I want to go next, because here's the thing. There is a profound connection between catastrophizing and aiming these arrows at yourself and the pain that you feel and how it impacts your ability to problem solve, to think clearly. This all comes from research out of UCLA from Dr. Judith Willis. I wrote about this extensively for my research in the High Five Habit book. We interviewed Dr. Judith Willis for that book and dug into her research. And she is pioneering all of this research around the connection between your nervous system and the ability for you to do what's called executive function. Executive function is basically the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex part of your brain, your forehead, basically, for those of us kind of everyday people. It's your ability to problem solve. It's your ability to make strategic decisions. It's your ability to think clearly. When you start aiming that second arrow, my daughters must have fallen off a cliff. I haven't heard from her. Something terrible has happened. I'm going to get fired. I'm never going to be happy again. I'm never going to get this weight off. And the pain and the pain and the pain that comes with doing that to yourself. It sets off the alarm, the fight or flight or freeze part of your nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system it's called. And when the alarm nervous system is going off, it impairs the cognitive functioning in your brain. It impacts decision making. It impacts your ability to focus. It impacts your ability to problem solve. And so you're not only firing a second arrow at yourself, which causes so much pain, you are also firing that arrow right into the center of your forehead. And it impacts your ability to think clearly, to solve a problem. And here's why this is important. Let's just say, for those of you that are really skeptical and you're like, but Mel, what if something bad does happen? What if your daughter did fall off of a cliff and she's laying there with a broken clavicle and she needs help? I'll tell you what, if I don't hear from her in 72 hours, I need to move into problem solving mode, right? Is it going to help me solve a problem halfway around the world if I've shot an arrow into the center of my forehead and I've worked myself into such a state that I can't think clearly? No. And so even if the worst case scenario that you're terrified about happens, your ability to face it, to problem solve through it, to think clearly about your options, it is severely impaired by this constant worrying that you are doing. And that's why this is so important. What if it all works out? It doesn't guarantee that it will. It guarantees that you will stay calm, that you will stay focused, that you will stay present, and that you will stay positive until you know otherwise. And that's everything. All right, I'm going to hit the pause real quick. I got to run to the bathroom because I have a feeling that I'm going to be talking to you right up until the time I got to race out of this hotel room to go give a speech. Don't go anywhere. I got more that I want to share with you, including a lot of really cool research. Stay with me. Welcome back. It's your pal Mel, and we're talking about the 6 words that I use that magically just boom, silences the worry spiral and my anxiety. What if it all works out? Okay. And another thing I'm going to confess to you is that until I stumbled on this, what if it all works out, I didn't realize how much I was doing this to myself. I basically walked around life with a second arrow in my head because I was constantly worried about something, constantly thinking something bad was going to happen. And, you know, some of the experts that we've had on this podcast that talk about trauma or talk about the impact of growing up in a chaotic household or experiencing abuse or being the kind of person that felt like as a kid, you were always waiting for the other shoe to drop. You were super hyper vigilant. This is very, very common for people like us. That is me. Miss looking around the corners. What is the bad thing that's going to happen? Anticipating things. And what I'm here to tell you is that if you start to really lean into what I'm talking about, which is how you aim the second arrow at your forehead, and you start utilizing, well, what if it all works out, to grab the second arrow, yank it out of your forehead, and be present in the moment and not escalate things until necessary, you can still tap into your intuition. You can still look around corners, which is a superpower for you, but you don't have to add on the pain that all of the negative thoughts are creating. And there's so much research about this. First of all, stress can actually lead to physical pain. It comes from Dr. Arthur Barsky, who's a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, where they've done these studies about how stress can lead to physical pain. And let me tell you something. When you start allowing yourself to worry, I'm not going to get into college. I'm not going to be finding love after my spouse has died, or I'm never going to get this weight off, or I'm not going to get control of this. When you start doing that to yourself, it does cause physical pain. And you know this. How many times have you been so stressed out or worried that you get a headache? Or you've been worried before a test and you get nauseous, don't you? Or you start shaking, or your stomach is twisting in knots. That's why we say twisting in knots, because that's what it feels like. It's physical pain. And a lot of times it begins from your nervous system getting triggered. That's the first arrow. And the second arrow is your thoughts. So they've done all of this interesting research. And what they have been able to prove in studies is that the neural pathways in your brain that indicate physical pain, the same ones light up when you have a painful thought. And it is painful to think that you're never going to be happy. It is painful to think you're not going to see your loved ones again. It is painful to think that you're never going to achieve your dreams or that you're never going to amount to something. That's why I want you to stop it. Scientists have also done this really interesting study where they looked at math anxiety. So math anxiety is literally just feeling stressed out and worried when you're about to do math problems. And the anticipation of doing math prompts a similar brain reaction as when you experience pain. And the researcher, who is a professor of psychology at the University of Chicago and the leading expert on math anxiety, said that it is the equivalent of burning one's hand on a hot stove. And I love knowing this research because it allows you to stop and go, it is true. Because it is painful. It's painful to think these thoughts. And that's why I want you to really steal these 6 words from me. What if it all works out? I also want you to steal this Buddhist teaching and proverb that when misfortune or stress or something doesn't meet your expectations or something painful happens in your life, that is the first arrow. Hits you right in the heart. But the second arrow is the one that you fire back at yourself into the center of your forehead based on what you think about what just happened. And that's the piece that you have control over. Yes, you will always think negative thoughts, but you don't have to escalate it. You don't have to stay there. And you can use these 6 words, what if it all works out, and logic to pause that spiral and to question your thinking. And when you question yourself, well, what if it all works out? The fact is, it just might, right? Like, you don't know. You haven't even entertained that possibility because you've been so busy firing arrows at your forehead. You didn't even stop to think, well, there's a whole different possibility here. And based on the research of Penn State, 91% of the time, that's the possibility. So what the hell am I all worked up about? Because getting worked up, as we know, based on the research at UCLA and from Dr. Judith Willis, it doesn't help me. And here's the final piece. I believe in you. And I believe in your ability to face the things that are painful in your life. And I also believe in your ability to problem solve and to rise to these moments where life is painful and life is challenging. And if something bad is going to happen, I want you to not face it with an arrow in your head. I want you to have your full capacity to think clearly, to ask for help, to solve whatever issue is happening in your life. And that's why this is also important. It's because between now and whenever something amazing or something terrible happens in your life, you have the ability to be more present and to assume good intent and assume a positive outcome. And that is going to help you both enjoy your life, but it's also going to help you face things if they do in fact turn out to be hard, which we know based on the research is about 6% of the time. Those are odds I'm willing to play with. I'm willing to play with those odds. I'm willing to bet that things are okay. I'm willing to bet on you and me and our ability to be more positive, to be more optimistic, to be more trusting, and to live in that space until we know otherwise. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? I think it does too. When you train yourself to reach up and grab that second arrow before it hits your forehead, because you don't know. You don't know. So you might as well coach yourself to think something positive will happen. You might as well learn how to default to positive ideation, where you say, this could be the best thing that ever happens to me. This isn't easy, but I trust that I'm going to grow through it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I think I can figure it out. This is more difficult than I thought it would be, but boy, am I proud of myself for doing this. When you can default to positive ideation, I haven't heard from her in 2 days. She must be having the time of her life. I haven't heard from her in 2 days, but I saw that sunrise, which means she's probably so busy with all the friends she made up there because she was also taking photos of other people up there. She must be so busy. She didn't have time to talk to her mother. And wouldn't that be the most amazing thing that could happen if you went on a 4-month solo backpacking trip as a 24-year-old woman? To be so caught up in the moment that you don't have time to check in at home. Boy, wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? And that's what I am telling myself, because that's what I believe is true. And research shows that getting your mind to focus on positive thoughts, positive outcomes, visualizing, hey, what would it look like if this all works out? Scientists call this positive ideation. It is so effective in beating down that worry. So I want you to try it. Because, hey, what if you use these 6 words and it all works out? That would be a beautiful thing. I want you to know that when you have the revelation that the voice that you've listened to for years, the voice that's held you back, that made you feel like shit, that it's actually not even yours, that can make your heart seize for a minute. It's kind of one of those like, wait, what? And then when I add on top of it that you're not to blame for the crap that somebody programmed into your head. You were just a little person with 3 pounds of macaroni that was trying to absorb everything around it. And our brains love patterns, and it picks up on patterns of speaking. And that's what your brain did. And so if you're having this revelation, holy shit, I've thought that everything's my fault for my entire life because somebody made me believe it was. And then I held on to that belief. Don't freak out. This is great news because so many people spend their entire lives not even realizing that it's possible to change the way you think. It is possible to put a new playlist in your mind. It is possible to filter the world completely differently and to make your brain work for you. Now, are you going to have positive thoughts all day long? No. Are you going to be like, 1,000% confident? No. But can you stop torturing yourself? Yes. Can you start encouraging yourself? You better believe you can. Can you separate what your narcissistic piece of shit ex-spouse said to you from what you actually believe about yourself? That you want to believe about yourself? Yeah, you can. Can you do it overnight? No. You're going to have to work at this, just like the people in your past worked over time at saying things to you that beat you down. This stuff takes hold over time. But the good news is your brain is super responsive. And when you combine what you're learning about resetting your mind with healing your nervous system and the science of making and sticking to new habits, all of which you are absolutely smart enough and capable enough to apply to your life because your friend Mel Robbins, I am not going to make this scientific. I'm going to give you the science so that you know this stuff works and you can count on it and trust it. But I make this stuff so dead simple that literally your kids and I can do it. And so you can do everything that you are learning on the Mel Robbins podcast. You can change your mind. You can kick the bully out of your head. You can program in new thoughts. You can actively work to change the reticular activity system in your brain, that network of neurons that filters the world. You can take better care of your brain, and taking care of your physical brain will also help the thoughts in your mind. You can develop new healthy habits using the 3 simple aspects of a habit based in science and focusing on triggers and rewards. And you can do this. You can make it easier. And you can heal your nervous system, which is the trifecta of transformation. We hit the habits, the mindset, and the nervous system. Holy shit, you're like the Terminator of transformation. You could do anything. I believe that. I just have way too much evidence to the otherwise. And if you're cynical about that, take a look at who taught you to be cynical. Just because life hasn't worked out for you the way that you wanted to up until this point, who fucking says it's not going to work out for you and the best days aren't ahead? I'll tell you who says. You do. You decide whether or not you're going to continue to let all this crap you're not responsible for to hold you back, or you're going to take responsibility for what happens next. Heal your nervous system. You can do that, and you don't have to spend $1. Change your mind. You can do that, and you don't have to spend $1 to do it. Make new habits. Habits that actually help you get what you want, what you deserve. You can do that, and you do not have to spend money to do it. Now let's go to Samantha's question, who has a bit of overwhelm about prioritizing tasks on her to-do list.
Hi Mel, it's Samantha. My question is, how do you prioritize everything in daily life without stress and anxiety taking over? I find myself overwhelmed thinking about everything I need to do throughout the day, and then throw in extra appointments and tasks on top of that, and then I end up pushing it off in hopes that I get it done the next day. I'm just looking for that happy balance.
Yes, Samantha. Whoo, I hear you. You have what I call lifestyle overwhelm. And this involves a lie that we all tell ourselves that leads to a lot of overwhelm. And the lie is everything is important. And here's what I want you to understand. If everything is important, nothing is important. All those things that you have on your to-do list do not have equal weight. And so here's what I want you to do. You're going to go from being stressed out all the time because you're giving equal weight to everything to having a more strategic way of approaching your day-to-day life and the things that you need to get done. And so the tool that I'm going to give you is something that I use all the time. I call it a brain dump, okay? It's so simple. It costs you nothing. You can do it several times a day. Anybody can use this. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to take out a blank piece of paper. I don't care if it's lined or it's printer paper or it's the flip side of a bill that you just paid. And you're going to take that piece of paper and you are going to vomit everything on that paper that is in your brain. Absolutely everything, okay? And you can just dump it all out there. And if you want to get fancy pants with this, you can draw a line down the center of the paper and you can write important stuff on the left and shit I can do later on the right, okay? But you don't even need to do that. I'm just adding that in there because I know a lot of our listeners are very, very, very I like to keep things organized, Mel. No problem. You can add a little pizzazz to your brain dump. I'm so scatterbrained with the ADHD that I just need a blank piece of paper and I just dump it all down there. And so let me think about today what would be on my list. Packing for Boston, calling my daughter to remind her that it's dinner's at 7:30. I got to check in for the plane ticket. I got to make sure that, I haven't even looked at the weather yet. So I don't even know what to pack for Boston. I don't know what it's going to be like in New York when we land there Saturday to support another friend who's doing this concert. I didn't even pick up my ADHD prescription yet, and I need to get that on the way out of town. And so you can see that just like you, I suffer from not only legitimate overwhelm right now, but I also have a case of lifestyle overwhelm, that I overwhelm myself because I manage all this crap on my head. So you feel a sense of lifestyle overwhelm, brain dump everybody. Get it out of your head and get it down on a piece of paper. Because when you can get it down on a piece of paper, you can be more strategic about creating a system to get it done. And it feels so good to do this. When you're managing all this stuff in your head, this is why going for a walk with a friend is so therapeutic. Not only are you outside, but as you're walking and talking, you know what you're doing? You're brain dumping. You're getting all that stuff that you've been ruminating about out into the air. And when you get it out on a piece of paper by doing a brain dump, just pour it all out there. That's what you need to do. I was about to tell you 15 other things that just came to mind, because what starts happening when you do a brain dump is it's sort of like pulling a thread on a sweater. That sucker just keeps on going. So don't be surprised if there are some days that you fill 3 pages. So now, what do you do now that you've dumped it all out on a piece of paper? You're going to take a highlighter and you're going to highlight the 3 things that you must do today. These are your priority. This is what's important. So what are the 3 things I need to do today? I need to pick up my prescription. I need to pack for Boston. And I need to work on this eulogy. Those are the only 3 things that matter. And you want to know something fascinating about life? Is that if you just can dump everything out and you can highlight the 3 things that really matter, that you get to them today, if there's an emergency or if something else is a true priority, have you ever noticed it gets your attention anyway? If one of your kids is sick or a friend needs you, they call. If you have to fill up the tank of gas, you'll realize when you get in the car and it's on empty, like mine often is because my son borrows the car and never fills the car back up. If you realize you've run out of milk, you'll realize it when you open up the fridge and you'll deal with it. But it's not really that important. It's not life or death. It's not a big thing. You need to pick the 3 things that are the actual priority. So, lifestyle overwhelm. Brain dump, highlight the 3 things that actually matter, and that's how you beat that lie that everything's important. Because when everything's important, nothing is. And you get to say what's important. So pick those things. All right. Our next question is from Cindy. And Cindy's overwhelm comes from the fact that she says yes to everything. I can't wait for you to hear the lie she's telling herself, because I think you're going to relate to this one too.
Hi Mel, this is Cindy. Do you have a strategy for not overcommitting for daily tasks? It sounds so ridiculous when I type it out, but it really is destructive and sparks feelings of failure when I cannot accomplish all I believe I should be able to handle in a single day. Thanks so much.
Oh, Cindy, I love you. Cindy, I relate to you too. You have a case of lifestyle overwhelm. You have perfectionism, and you also put a ton of pressure on yourself. And there's this huge lie that we overachievers tell ourselves. You want to hear it? There's so much more I should be doing. Everybody's doing more than me. I should be doing more. I need to do more. Here's the truth. You need to do what needs to get done. And the rest does not matter. And so here is the rule that we're going to build upon. Imagine that you do the brain dump. Your problem is you highlight everything that you just dumped on a piece of paper. And so I'm going to give you this tool. It's called the rule of 3. There are only 3 things that actually matter. And I often say to myself when I start getting a case of lifestyle overwhelm, when I'm trying to add things to the to-do list, when I'm putting pressure on myself to do more, when I feel weird that I'm like kind of done with what needed to get done and now I don't know what to do with myself, so I feel like I should do more. Mel, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. I'll give you an example. This happened to me last night. So last night, I was scurrying around with a case of lifestyle overwhelm because I'm trying to get through my to-do list and I'm realizing, oh my God, I don't have any clean underwear for this frickin' trip. So I've got to do laundry before I have to pack, which of course only makes me feel more overwhelmed. So I grab the basket of laundry. I tromp up the stairs. And as I'm climbing up the stairs to the 2nd floor of our house here in Southern Vermont, I look up and all of the walls in the upstairs hallway are blank. They have a brand new coat of paint on them, but there ain't nothing hanging on these walls. And I immediately feel this wave of overwhelm come over me because I don't have any pictures of our family in our new house. And I've always envisioned that we will do a family picture wall on these 3 walls. And I start to think, oh my God, wait, are we going to do pictures that are black and white with black frames, or should we do those sort of blow up things that wrap the canvas around the things that are sort of like an inch thing and they're colorful? And do I do them different sizes? And I start to feel completely overwhelmed. And then I start to beat myself up for the fact that I haven't done this, that I don't have any pictures identified, that I also let my Shutterfly account go because they just moved to a whole thing where now you have to pay in order to have your pictures stored there. And I have all my old pictures on Shutterfly. And oh my, now I'm beating myself up about that. And so now here I am with a load of laundry. I have put the basket down. I didn't even realize I did. And I'm looking at all 3 walls having a panic attack about these freaking pictures and this project that doesn't fucking matter. Pick 3 things. 3 things, Mel. The rule of 3. The only thing that matters is getting this damn laundry done so that you have underwear to wear while you are delivering a eulogy. And you need to, I don't remember what the 3rd thing was yesterday, but I think I got it done. It doesn't fucking matter, Mel. So don't get overwhelmed about what the 3rd thing was yesterday. You know what the 3 things are today. You got to work on the eulogy. You got to pack for Boston. And what was the 3rd thing? Medicine, right? Oh, yeah, I got to pick up my medicine. Thank you, Amy. See, I don't even know. Lifestyle overwhelm. I have legitimate overwhelm, which means I know that the dial's cranked up right now. And so I also know I need to give myself a little bit of a break, that I am going to be in this state of feeling amped up until I get through this eulogy. That's just the legitimate overwhelm that I'm feeling. But I don't need to add on top of that a dose of lifestyle overwhelm by obsessing over a picture wall that I have not done anything about in 6 months of living here. 6 months. Okay. So that's it. That's it. Okay. And the same is true for you. Lower the pressure. Lower the pressure. And for those of us that have trouble sitting still or relaxing, you got to be really careful about lifestyle overwhelm because it will rob you of your ability to be present. It will rob you of just being able to sit down and read a book or go out into your garden and weed or pick up a phone and make a date to go meet a friend for coffee. And that's how this creeps into your whole life. this lie that you say that you got to be doing more. No, you don't. The whole point of this is to enjoy your life. And catching yourself when you get a case of lifestyle overwhelm and reminding yourself of the rule of 3, that will help you lower the pressure, focus on what matters, and create more time to just chill and enjoy your life. Okay? The tool that I'm going to give you is something that I use all the time. I call it a brain dump. Okay? It's so simple. It costs you nothing. You can do it several times a day. Anybody can use this. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to take out a blank piece of paper. I don't care if it's lined or it's printer paper or it's the flip side of a bill that you just paid. And you're going to take that piece of paper and you are going to vomit everything on that paper that is in your brain. Absolutely everything, okay? And you can just dump it all out there. And if you want to get fancy pants with this, you can draw a line down the center of the paper and you can write important stuff on the left and shit I can do later on the right, okay? But you don't even need to do that. I'm just adding that in there because I know a lot of our listeners are very, very, very I like to keep things organized, Mel. No problem. You can add a little pizzazz to your brain dump. I'm so scatterbrained with the ADHD that I just need a blank piece of paper and I just dump it all down there. And so let me think about today what would be on my list. Packing for Boston, calling my daughter to remind her that it's dinner's at 7:30. I got to check in for the plane ticket. I got to make sure that, I haven't even looked at the weather yet. So I don't even know what to pack for Boston. I don't know what it's going to be like in New York when we land there Saturday to support another friend who's doing this concert. Oh, I didn't even pick up my ADHD prescription yet, and I need to get that on the way out of town. And so you can see that just like you, I suffer from not only legitimate overwhelm right now, but I also have a case of lifestyle overwhelm, that I overwhelm myself because I manage all this crap on my head. So you feel a sense of lifestyle overwhelm, brain dump everybody. Get it out of your head and get it down on a piece of paper. Because when you can get it down on a piece of paper, you can be more strategic about creating a system to get it done. And it feels so good to do this. When you're managing all this stuff in your head, this is why going for a walk with a friend is so therapeutic. Not only are you outside, but as you're walking and talking, you know what you're doing? You're brain dumping. You're getting all that stuff that you've been ruminating about out into the air. And when you get it out on a piece of paper by doing a brain dump, just pour it all out there. That's what you need to do. I was about to tell you 15 other things that just came to mind, because what starts happening when you do a brain dump is it's sort of like pulling a thread on a sweater. That sucker just keeps on going. So don't be surprised if there are some days that you fill 3 pages. So now, what do you do now that you've dumped it all out on a piece of paper? You're going to take a highlighter and you're going to highlight the 3 things that you must do today. These are your priority. This is what's important. So what are the 3 things I need to do today? I need to pick up my prescription. I need to pack for Boston. And I need to work on this eulogy. Those are the only 3 things that matter. And you want to know something fascinating about life? Is that if you just can dump everything out and you can highlight the 3 things that really matter, that you get to them today, if there's an emergency or if something else is a true priority, have you ever noticed it gets your attention anyway? If one of your kids is sick or a friend needs you, they call. If you have to fill up the tank of gas, you'll realize when you get in the car and it's on empty, like mine often is because my son borrows the car and never fills the car back up. If you realize you've run out of milk, you'll realize it when you open up the fridge and you'll deal with it. But it's not really that important. It's not life or death. It's not a big thing. You need to pick the 3 things that are the actual priority. So, lifestyle overwhelm. Brain dump, highlight the 3 things that actually matter, and that's how you beat that lie that everything's important. Because when everything's important, nothing is. And you get to say what's important. So pick those things. All right. Our next question is from Cindy. And Cindy's overwhelm comes from the fact that she says yes to everything. I can't wait for you to hear the lie she's telling herself, because I think you're going to relate to this one too.
Hi, Mel. This is Cindy. Do you have a strategy for not overcommitting for daily tasks? It sounds so ridiculous when I type it out, but it really is destructive and sparks feelings of failure when I cannot accomplish all I believe I should be able to handle in a single day. Thanks so much.
Oh, Cindy, I love you. Cindy, I relate to you too. You have a case of lifestyle overwhelm. You have perfectionism, and you also put a ton of pressure on yourself. And there's this huge lie that we overachievers tell ourselves. You want to hear it? There's so much more I should be doing. Everybody's doing more than me. I should be doing more. I need to do more. Here's the truth. You need to do what needs to get done. And the rest does not matter. And so here is the rule that we're going to build upon. Imagine that you do the brain dump. Your problem is you highlight everything that you just dumped on a piece of paper. And so I'm going to give you this tool. It's called the rule of 3. There are only 3 things that actually matter. And I often say to myself when I start getting a case of lifestyle overwhelm, when I'm trying to add things to the to-do list, when I'm putting pressure on myself to do more, when I feel weird that I'm like kind of done with what needed to get done and now I don't know what to do with myself, so I feel like I should do more. Mel, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. I'll give you an example. This happened to me last night. So last night, I was scurrying around with a case of lifestyle overwhelm because I'm trying to get through my to-do list, and I'm realizing, oh my God, I don't have any clean underwear for this frickin' trip. So I've got to do laundry before I have to pack, which of course only makes me feel more overwhelmed. So I grab the basket of laundry. I tromp up the stairs. And as I'm climbing up the stairs to the 2nd floor of our house here in Southern Vermont, I look up and all of the walls in the upstairs hallway are blank. They have a brand new coat of paint on them, but there ain't nothing hanging on these walls. And I immediately feel this wave of overwhelm come over me because I don't have any pictures of our family in our new house. And I've always envisioned that we will do a family picture wall on these 3 walls. And I start to think, oh my God, wait, are we going to do pictures that are black and white with black frames, or should we do those sort of blow up things that wrap the canvas around the things that are sort of like an inch thing and they're colorful? And do I do them different sizes? And I start to feel completely overwhelmed. And then I start to beat myself up for the fact that I haven't done this, that I don't have any pictures identified, that I also let my Shutterfly account go because they just moved to a whole thing where now you have to pay in order to have your pictures stored there. And I have all my old pictures on Shutterfly, and now I'm beating myself up about that. And so now here I am with a load of laundry. I've put the basket down. I didn't even realize I did. And I'm looking at all 3 walls having a panic attack about these freaking pictures and this project that doesn't fucking matter. Pick 3 things. 3 things, Mel. The rule of 3. The only thing that matters is getting this damn laundry done so that you have underwear to wear while you are delivering a eulogy. And you need to, I don't remember what the 3rd thing was yesterday, but I think I got it done. It doesn't fucking matter, Mel. So don't get overwhelmed about what the 3rd thing was yesterday. You know what the 3 things are today. You got to work on the eulogy. You got to pack for Boston. And what was the 3rd thing? Medicine, right? Oh, yeah, I got to pick up my medicine. Thank you, Amy. See, I don't even know. Lifestyle overwhelm. I have legitimate overwhelm, which means I know that the dial's cranked up right now. And so I also know I need to give myself a little bit of a break, that I am going to be in this state of feeling amped up until I get through this eulogy. That's just the legitimate overwhelm that I'm feeling. But I don't need to add on top of that a dose of lifestyle overwhelm by obsessing over a picture wall that I have not done anything about in 6 months of living here. 6 months. Okay. So that's it. Okay. And the same is true for you. lower the pressure. Lower the pressure. And for those of us that have trouble sitting still or relaxing, you got to be really careful about lifestyle overwhelm because it will rob you of your ability to be present. It will rob you of just being able to sit down and read a book or go out into your garden and weed or pick up a phone and make a date to go meet a friend for coffee. And that's how this creeps into your whole life. This lie that you say that you got to be doing more. No, you don't. The whole point of this is to enjoy your life. And catching yourself when you get a case of lifestyle overwhelm and reminding yourself of the rule of 3, that will help you lower the pressure, focus on what matters, and create more time to just chill and enjoy your life. Okay? So Leela is up next, and I love this because she listened to the episode we recently did that you guys loved. Holy cow, it was one of the most shared episodes on Spotify. I'm so glad you got a lot out of it. And a lot of you responded to the fact that I connected your habit of procrastinating to the fight or flight response that we have when we get stressed out. You know how when you get stressed, you have that fight, flight, or freeze. Procrastination is a form of freezing. And so that episode is Procrastination, the Only Way to Stop Procrastination, based on research. Again, we will link to it in the show notes. And Leela had a follow-up question on that, and here it is.
Mel, this is a huge thank you. I'm an artist, and also I procrastinate, and I get stressed, freeze, and then end up doing nothing. I heard what you said on the procrastination episode, and I think wearing the stress backpack is super heavy right now, and I plan to shed it today. I need to manage my time better. So now I need to figure out how to get back to my easel and start painting. I can't wait for your next episode. Thanks so much, Leela.
Hey, it's Mel, and I just want to talk to you since you're watching this on YouTube. First of all, thank you for being a fan of the Mel Robbins podcast. You have made us one of the top ranking podcasts in the entire world. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel because it's your support that allows our team to bring this to you at zero cost. And so that's really important. And I don't want you watching this on YouTube while you're driving a car. Will you take me with you by subscribing to the Mel Robbins podcast on your favorite podcast platform? Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Stitcher. You can listen on Audible. Anywhere that you listen to podcasts, please subscribe to the Mel Robbins Show. It really matters for a growing show like ours, and it allows us to continue to bring you all this great stuff at zero cost. Okay, let's go back to the show. Leela, I'm so happy you're on our walk today with me and that you shared that because procrastination is a form of lifestyle overwhelm. And in case you haven't listened to that episode yet, as you're taking this walk with us, when Leela said stress backpack, she's using a term that I used in that episode to basically say all those things that are going on in your life, the things that are causing you stress, whether it's conscious or subconscious, you literally carry it around with you as if all that stress is in a backpack. Joni, my friend who was caring for her mom, backpack of stress. Everybody that you've heard on our walk today, the demands of their life, the pressure that they're putting on themselves, all of that is a stress backpack. And you have one too. And what happens when you feel really stressed out is you can start to freeze. And then what happens when you freeze and you push things off and you procrastinate? You get stuck in lifestyle overwhelm. You're in this vicious cycle of pushing things off and then beating yourself up and then feeling overwhelmed because you're pushing things off that you really want to get to. And so what is the tool here? Because there's a huge lie that you tell yourself when you procrastinate, okay? And I can hear it. And the lie that we tell ourselves is, I can handle this all in my head. That if I think about it, I'm working on it. Not true. Not true. It's one of the reasons why I use that tool of a brain dump all the time to get it out of my head, to not manage it in my head. Because if it spins in my head, it turns into rumination and nothing gets done. Just like those blank walls, those pictures are not getting done by me spinning thoughts about it. And so the real thing I want you to understand is that if it truly matters, you have to schedule it. Things that matter end up in your calendar. And so one tool that I want you to use, Leela, is ask yourself this. This is a journaling prompt that you can use, everybody, that I just love. How can I make this easy? How can I make this easy? What's the simplest way that you can make it easier to paint? And for me, I'm going to share with you, I have to do the things that are important first thing in the morning. It's not that I'm not an evening person. It's that by the end of the day, I am so wiped out and just gassed. I don't have the stamina or the willpower or the energy to force myself to do things that require energy. David Goggins, who I just love, he has his alter ego, Goggins. Goggins pushes himself and has the mental discipline. And I freaking love that. But I don't want to set up my life so that every night I've saved the thing that really brings me joy. I have to summon up what researchers call, and we've talked about this in other episodes, it's called activation energy. Csikszentmihalyi, who's a famous psychologist from the University of Chicago, studied motivation and flow states extensively and realized that this resistance that we feel to doing things that we've put off, that requires activation energy and getting out of bed, pushing yourself to paint. For me, it's exercise. And if I put off exercise till the evening, it's not happening. It takes me 100 times more energy to drag my ass to that Peloton treadmill at night than it does to drag my ass to that Peloton treadmill in the morning. And so ask yourself, how can I make this easy? Maybe you need to do it at night. Maybe that is easier for you. Maybe you need to do it in the morning. Maybe it's the weekend. Or maybe you need to, if you can afford it, you need the structure of a painting class. One of the ways that I jump-started exercising, and I realize not everybody can afford this, but one of the ways I jump-started exercising was to start taking classes again, because I would pay for it and then I was motivated to go, and I knew once I got there, I could outsource the motivation to the instructor that would be yelling at me. Maybe you need a friend to do this with you, or you need somebody that's going to be your accountability partner and be really annoying on Saturday morning and text you and be like, hey, did you paint yet? I'm not meeting you for a walk until you did. And you can trade that kind of thing. I think a lot of you know, for example, that I do a lot of the ice baths, where you climb into a really cold barrel of water, or you jump into an icy pond or a river up here in Vermont, or you take a cold shower. Do you know how I make it easy? I do it with Chris, my husband. Chris is like living with a monk. The dude is so stoic. He just kind of climbs right in there. No big deal. He shames me into doing it. That's how I make it easier. He goes in first. Now I'm like, oh God, now I got to do it. But if I have to do it myself, it's hard. And so that's what I want you to understand. Procrastination creates overwhelm. And chronic procrastination creates a vicious cycle that becomes lifestyle overwhelm. And so understand that. And that's huge that you understand that. And then the second thing I want you to do is remember, get it out of your head. Don't manage it there. It's got to get scheduled in real time. And then ask yourself, how can I make this easy? Because you can. And there's no reason why the things that you need to do have to feel so hard. And the reason why they feel so hard, everybody, is because we're not taking the time to go, okay, first of all, am I in a lifestyle overwhelm situation where I need to be kinder to myself and I need to have more compassion for myself and I need to keep reminding myself that this is a marathon and I need a little bit of stamina and I'm not going to be able to get to everything. I remember when I was doing the talk show, I had this experience where most of my team came from Oprah Winfrey's talk show and from her organization. And so I was surrounded by all these people that were super, super experienced. And my executive producer arranged for me to talk to a really, really famous talk show host whose show is no longer on the air. And this guy spent like an hour talking to me, and I'll never forget what he told me. He said, Mel, being a daytime talk show host, doing 175 shows in 6 months, This is a marathon. He said the most important thing that you could do is protect your stamina and be kind and patient with yourself. And you're not going to be able to live your normal life. You're not going to be able to go out to dinner with friends, because if you tape 3 shows in a row at CBS Broadcast Center 4 days a week, you are not going to have energy. And by the way, you can't afford to get sick because the show must go on. And so right now, tell your family and your friends that you love them, but you are about to go into a bunker right now, and you are about to focus on this. And then when you come up for air, you will be able to focus on having fun again and being with everyone else. And I think there are times in your life like that. Maybe you're studying for a dissertation. Maybe you are in the middle of applying to medical school. Maybe you're going through a divorce, or you've lost somebody that you love and you're grieving. That is a moment of legitimate overwhelm. And the best thing that you could do is identify it, call it out for what it is, and be kinder to yourself and remind yourself that if you are, you'll have the stamina to move through this. And you will move through this. And there will be a time in your life where you will not feel this way. But for now, it's about putting yourself first. And for those of us that are also struggling with lifestyle overwhelm, it's okay. You now know. And now you have free, proven, research-backed tools that you can use. You got your brain dump. You got your rule of 3. Remember, it doesn't fucking matter. You can do the photos later. Nobody cares but you. And make it easier. Make it easier. That's it. And this stuff is so powerful. Like, it works so quickly. You don't realize how quickly you could break out of overwhelm because, like me, you've probably been stuck in this vicious cycle for so long that it's just the air you breathe. But there is something so much better that's available to you. You can create a better life. And that's why I wanted you to hear from a listener named Michelle last. And pay attention to the joy and the lightness in her voice. I wanted to invite Michelle on this walk with us because I want you to know that this is available to you when you finally take back control and you stop letting overwhelm run your life.
Holy shit, Mel. I just listened to your podcast on procrastination and it changed everything. You're the first person I've heard talk about money anxiety, oh my God, in a way that resonated with me. And you know what? I paid a credit card bill today that was 6 months late. I was in freeze mode, and when you said that on the podcast, I burst out crying. I mean, it was like a gut punch, and you thawed me. I paid that damn bill this morning, and all of a sudden I realized that I have more time on my hands. Like, I was sitting there wondering what I was supposed to do. I had energetic time because I'd been thinking about this bill for 6 months. I've been torturing myself and holding myself back from my greatness. It's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I mean, what if it doesn't have to be hard? What if I can do the damn thing? Thank you so much, Mel. I'm really forever grateful.
Michelle, I'm forever grateful. And I'm really proud of you. And the thing I want to really highlight, because I can hear the energetic freedom. I can hear how light you are. And what I want to point out is, until you do the damn thing, you don't realize how much thinking about something and avoiding it and feeling overwhelmed by it, how much it's robbing you of energy. I relate to that because I feel that way about that damn picture wall. And I've gone through periods of my life where I didn't pay my bills because I couldn't pay my bills, but I thought about my bills all the damn time. Overwhelm is torture. Feeling like you're stuck in a vicious cycle where you got to do more, or you got to move faster, or you got to put this, it's just pressure and it's keeping you stuck there. And so now you know the truth. You can focus. You can prioritize. You can use the rule of 3 and just focus on doing the important things. Not everything is important. And when you stop acting as if it is, you will able to get done what needs to get done. See, overwhelm goes away the minute you start to take control. And that usually happens, honestly, with a simple pen and a blank piece of paper. That's it. Do the brain dump. Pick 3 things. Tell yourself, that doesn't fucking matter today. Remind yourself that anything that is an emergency bubbles its way to the top. And always ask yourself, how can I make this easier? How can I take the pressure off? How can I do the damn thing? And just pick one of those 3 and get started. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pay that bill. Make that call. Write that next paragraph. Roll out that yoga mat. Pick up that guitar. Or for me, write that eulogy. And then on the plane ride home, log into Shutterfly and see if you can find all of those photos that used to be stored there. Do what you've been avoiding. Follow the rule of 3 and give yourself a fucking break if you're feeling legitimate overwhelm, because it will be over. But you have a choice over whether or not it's your lifestyle anymore. And for crying out loud, stop telling yourself those 4 lies. No, you can't handle it in your head. No, rushing won't make you fit it all in. And no, everything's not of equal importance. And no, you don't need to do more. In fact, you need to do a lot less. You just need to do the things that really matter to you. And when you do that, you, my friend, are going to get your life and all of that energetic time back. And I so want that for you. Whew. I feel better. I hope you feel better. I wish you were here so I could give you a hug. You know, after a great walk with a friend, you give each other a hug. And you're like, okay, when are we doing this again? We're doing this? Yeah, you know when we're doing this again? We're doing this on Thursday. And between now and then, I want to make sure I tell you, I love you. I believe in you. And I believe in your ability to really focus on what matters to you and go create a better life for yourself. Having been somebody that was in a scary place financially just over a decade ago, I want you to explain what will happen to somebody with crushing student debt or who's having trouble just making the ends meet right now and they don't have a lot of savings. How will doing this exercise change their psychology about money starting today?
Yes, thank you for asking this, because if you are in large amounts of debt, whether student loan, credit card, even mortgage for some people, some of this can sound really airy-fairy. And I'm the last guy to get accused of us all sitting around the campfire saying kumbaya. I'm like, look, I'll talk about psychology, but we're also going to talk about the numbers. And so what I want to emphasize to people is that we often have this belief that we're overwhelmed with money. Okay, it's easy to feel that way. But when I ask people, show me your spending, what percentage of your income is going to housing or investments? I would say 99% of people do not know. Okay, so how can we? I
don't know.
Yeah,
I literally don't know.
Yeah, totally. It's very common. And so how can we feel in control of something if we don't understand the basic mechanics of it? Even when we drive a car, we got to know how to turn the ignition on, or, reverse. So we go through life in this very arbitrary transactional way of like, okay, this bill came in, I'm going to pay it. This bill came in, that feels really bad. It's transactional, it's reactive. And what I'm encouraging you to do is to go from defense to offense with your money. That means once you set the intention of an Italy trip, if you're in crushing debt, you may go, hey, Ramit, I actually cannot afford to put $100 a month away. I go, okay, well, why don't we write that down, $100 a month towards Italy, but you can't do that today. That's totally fine. Next, we're going to go through your 4 key numbers in the conscious spending plan. Let's make sure you understand your numbers. And you will be quite surprised that a lot of people discover they have more money than they actually realized once they go on offense with their personal finances.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what are the 4 things that we all need to go through?
Everybody needs these 4 numbers. This is what I use instead of a budget. I don't keep a budget. You think I'm going to sit around tracking the price of asparagus for the rest of my life? Hell no. Okay, I
Oh
don't
my
want to
God,
live
I
that kind
love
of
you.
life.
I don't
So
want to
there's
live that
four
kind of life
numbers.
either. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So 4 numbers that you should know. These are all part of my conscious spending plan. The first is your fixed costs.
Okay.
So that would include your rent or mortgage,
Yep.
your utilities, car payment, gas, insurance, anything that's fixed, even groceries, every month, that goes there.
And
And
what
your
about
fixed-
the minimum debt payment, or is that part of another
Yeah,
category?
yeah, that
Okay.
counts there exactly. Thank
Okay.
you. And that number, you should try to get it between 50 to 60% of your take-home pay.
Okay.
Let me run through these all, and then I'll tell you what they mean. 50 to 60% of your take-home pay for fixed costs. Next up, your savings. How much money are you saving every month? This should be roughly 5 to 10% of your take-home. And savings would be an emergency fund or money you don't need for at least 1 to 5 years. Things like a down payment for a house, etc. Next up would be investments. Roughly 5 to 10% of take home, although I like to see it higher because investing early in life pays dividends later.
Okay.
And then
Little
finally,
shame for Mel Robbins. Did not invest early in life. I'm just going to let that one go and focus on my dream list. Okay. Just wanted to
There you go.
acknowledge that when you said that because
Yeah, I mean, look,
people
not
say
everybody
that and I'm like, fuck, I didn't do that. Okay.
Well, I wish I started deadlifting when I was 13 years old, but I didn't even know what that was, you know? So we all start from the place we start at.
That's true.
Okay. The last category is my favorite one of all. It's guilt-free spending. And this is 20 to 35% of take-home pay.
What?
Now, yeah, that's right. Desserts. Mel, go get them. Beautiful cashmere coat. That's for me. Go get them. You want to get roller skates. You want to go to your gym. 20 to 35% of take home. Now, let me tell you why I love this and why I'm getting excited
I
about
frickin'
4
love
numbers.
this.
Okay. So many of us shrink our lives and we agonize over some stupid $5 purchase. You really think coffee is going to change your life? It's irrelevant. It does not matter how much coffee you buy. So please stop thinking about that. The same people who agonize, I go, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know anything. I go, what's your savings rate? They go, what's that? How much are you investing? Well, I try, but I don't really know. Okay, how are you supposed to feel not overwhelmed if you don't know any key numbers? So know the 4 numbers and you will suddenly feel totally in control. Some of you aren't going to be able to hit these numbers. That's okay. At least we can work with it. We got the puzzle pieces on the table. Now we can start assembling your rich life.
Wow. Okay. I think I can do this.
Yeah.
So you just carve out some time on the weekend and get your arms around these 4 things.
Yeah, which should take 15 minutes. Do not
No,
overthink
it's
it.
going to take me a while. Really? It
Wait,
takes
why?
15 minutes?
Yeah, but here's what people do.
How do you do it?
You know, because the biggest challenge is people don't have the right logins. So their logins are spread all. They got their Fidelity account or some old 401k or whatever. So I would recommend breaking it up into 2 days.
Okay.
The first day is just get all your stuff assembled.
Love it.
Right? It's like cleaning the garage. And then the second day, 15 minutes and done. Do not overthink it.
Okay.
We're going
I
for
love you.
approximate numbers.
Okay.
That's it.
I love you. I love you, love you, love you. You have that, what is it, the 85% rule? Get
Yeah.
85% of this right, you're good.
Get on with your life. You don't need to sit there and optimize everything. It's a waste of time.
And I also love this because, it can feel so insurmountable when you've made major financial mistakes in your life.
Yeah.
That this gives you a place to start that you can then start to get better from. And I just actually had a huge wake up moment. I realized that one of the great things about growing up with parents who were very I didn't ever see any concern about money. And I didn't see them talking about it. Actually, that's not true. I would see my mother sitting at her desk with one of those little calculators with the tapes as she was balancing her checkbook.
Hey, that's a really important thing that you saw. You saw a woman taking control of money.
Yes.
And obviously, and being capable and competent. That is a very valuable lesson to learn as a child. That obviously has come through for you. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And she then went on to open her own retail store. And all the women, like my grandmother's a farmer and ran the money, and she had a calculator with the tape.
Amazing.
And my other my grandparents had a bakery and she had the thing with the tape. But what's interesting is that I think it's chill aspect has gotten too hands off for me. The fact that I can't answer those numbers like that at this stage in my life, for me, it used to be because of fear and shame and how bad the numbers were. I used to be one of those people that the bills would arrive and I would just not open them.
Yeah, common.
And because it was confronting to see the debt and confronting to see how much I had spent because I was, basically shopping to escape my life with money that I did not afford or that I didn't have. And then you'd open up the bills and be like, fuck.
Yeah, I guess I spent that much.
Yeah, I don't have that money. And so it used to be that, but I think now that I've paid off all the debt and I have savings and I've, maniacally saving, I don't look at it at all still.
Okay. Let's talk about a couple things that are so interesting about what you just said. I love the honesty. All of us have something in our lives that we feel like we should be doing better. And we kind of push the envelopes away. And I deeply understand this because for me, it was fitness. And I grew up half joking, calling myself a skinny Indian guy. And I really wish I had not said that because it became part of my identity. And, if any of us say something like, I'm bad with money, I would gently encourage you to not say that. Maybe reframe it and say, gosh, I haven't learned the skills of money yet, but I'm changing that now.
I want to stop right there. Hold on a second. I apologize for interrupting you, but this is so important. Yeah. If you just heard Ramit say, I'm bad with money, I want you to pay attention loud and clear because he's absolutely right. Or if you say something like, I don't understand, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, I'm not good with math.
I'm not good with math. What are other things that your students say, Ramit, that really crystallize a terrible psychology around money?
My family's never been good with money. We're all bad. I'm never going to get out of this debt. We always fight about money. And I'm just an overspender.
Or my husband took care of the finances.
Oh, classic. Oh, that drives me insane. Hold on, I'm getting mad, but I'm getting mad at multiple things right now. So let me take them each in turn. Okay, first off, what you said about not opening envelopes, and then now as you've become much more financially successful, it's almost swung the other way, is totally common. In my experience, once people start earning around $150,000, they stop really paying attention to the numbers because they basically make enough to not have to really pay attention. And actually, I'm a little okay with that. I don't want people agonizing over the price of groceries if they're making $150K. But what I do want, and what I do for myself, is I spend 1 hour per month on my finances. That's it. Just 1 hour. I review the CSP. My wife and I talk about money.
Hold on. The CSP was that conscious spending plan of the four things: fixed cost, what's your automatic savings, your investments, and then the category I love the most: guilt-free fucking spending. People,
there you go. Wow, okay. I love it. You added the F word. That's so good. I got to add that. That's beautiful. It is exciting. Okay, so all those things. When you have money carved out for guilt-free spending, it is literally defined so that if you want to eat and get an extra cheesecake, or you want to go to the movies, like, you don't have to feel guilty because you know my debt is being paid off, my rent or mortgage is being covered. I'm even saving money. I'm not trying to save money, just like I don't try to brush my teeth. It is happening automatically. It's even better than brushing. So that is, if you're listening, I hope that's a sense of relief that you don't have to feel bad about having debt. You do not have to track a gajillion numbers that you don't even care about. You do, and I would highly encourage you to focus on 4 key numbers that will totally transform your life.
I love this. I love how easy you're making this. Thank you for that.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I don't want to spend time doing that either. I don't want anyone else to waste their time on it.
So may I just, I want to clarify one thing. So these 4 pillars of the conscious spending plan, and again, I come from the lived experience of crushing debt.
Yeah.
where you feel that unless you can get to zero balance, you don't deserve guilt-free spending.
Yeah.
That somehow you're cheating on your goal to get out of debt, which is what every financial advisor pounds into your head.
Yeah.
And you feel like that latte robs you of the opportunity to be out of debt. You feel like spending to go on a trip with your friends robs you of the ability to be out of debt. And what you're saying is, no, 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 no. You can start right now by figuring out these 4 things and allocating incoming to those things.
Correct. We have a very unhealthy relationship with money in this country. On one hand, we have a puritanical strain that tells us, do not buy anything, and you're a bad person for having debt, and you should live in a monastery until that debt is paid off, and then maybe you can go buy a pack of gum, okay? On the other hand, we're like, okay, hold on, let me look at Instagram. Oh, my friend's in Bora Bora on Tuesday. Ooh, I think I'm going to go take a trip, even though I don't even know how much I have in the bank. What a 2 paradoxical beliefs, and usually it's the consumerist one that wins, but we still feel guilty.
Yes.
We love to feel guilty in this country. I don't really know I don't want to feel guilty with money. I'm not naturally like, I don't feel guilty. I'm just like, let me just fix this. So when it comes to having debt, here's my belief. Number one, you need to know how much you owe. 90% of people I talk to who are in debt do not even know how much debt they owe. That's number one. You got to know your numbers. Number two, you've got to know the exact month and year your debt will be paid off. 95% of people in debt do not know their debt payoff plan. Easy way to do it, literally go on Google, type debt payoff calculator, plug your numbers in, and you will see. And don't worry if it seems depressing. Oh, it's going to take 28 years. What I want you to do is just plug the number in and sit with it for a day. And later, you will learn things like, wow, if I add an extra $50 a month, it can shave off 3 years from my debt. But that comes later. I just want you to
know what else I
actually
also love
acknowledge
that you're saying is I love that you're saying it's okay to have it. Like most rich people actually finance a lot of things. And and that
debt
go ahead. You're the expert. I don't know why the hell I'm talking about money. Go ahead.
well, first of all, whether it's okay or not, a lot of people have debt.
Yes.
So let's just accept us for who we are. That's the fact of life. Now, I do want you to get smarter with debt. So when I look at people, I always look at the snapshot of their finances. And I talk about all these numbers on the podcast, by the way. We have folks who come on $800,000 of debt. They're not even sure. Really? Are you serious?
Well, that was me over a decade ago. Yeah, when the liens hit the house.
Okay.
No college savings, no 401k, credit cards maxed out, home equity line maxed out, plowed it all into my husband's restaurant business. Did not go according to plan. I lost my job. Liens hit the house. He hadn't been paid in 6 months. Friends and family had invested. Holy fucking hell. That was my life.
Okay. So you really know what it's like.
Yeah, this is not a joke. It's
like you think about it every day of your life when you're in it.
Yes. And in fact, there's research, I believe, that says that the number is $75,000 or $78,000 in the United States is what you need to make in order to be relieved of the day-to-day financial stress that you have. That when you reach that number, there's a level of freedom involved. I don't know if that's true or not.
I know the research.
What is it?
It's not that people have wildly misinterpreted it. Let me put it this way, and I want to correct it because people listening who are making $75,000, they're like, wait a second, why do I still feel so stressed? What's wrong with me?
Right.
And there's not something wrong with you. Nobody is broken with money. Nobody. There are ways for you to get informed about money, so you know the basic language of money, which anybody can do. You do not have to be a math genius. I'm not. And second, to work on improving your money psychology. You know, I spoke to a couple on my podcast, and they were in a lot of financial trouble, and they think about it every day, and they were so stressed out. And I asked them, have you read my book? Not judging. It turns out like almost nobody who comes on my podcast reads my book, which I find hilarious. And so I said, okay. And they go, well, I haven't really read a lot. I said, okay, you're a new parent. She was a mom. I think her baby was about like 6 months old. I said, when you first had your baby, did you know how to hold her? She goes, no. Did you know how to feed her? No. Did you just wing it? Did you just tried your best, No. I got help. The nurses, my mom. I read a bunch of books, and on and on and on. And that is so normal. There are things in life we don't know. That's okay. But we do have to say, hey, this is important to me. My rich life is important. I deserve to dream bigger than a box of pickles. And therefore, I'm going to prioritize learning and also improving my psychology.
Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for checking this video out. And if you like this one, I have a feeling you're going to like this one too. I'll see you there.